Hello.
Hello. Sorry for the teeny tiny delay. It was like only 2 minutes. So I assume you guys didn't even notice. Um, Happy Friday. Hopefully you guys had a chance to watch the very long video that I posted on Tuesday. I think that's probably our longest like pre-recorded video, but we felt that editing it probably we wanted you guys to get all of the information. So if you didn't watch that, you might be a little bit lost today because we're going to be kind of reviewing some of that info, but for the most part, we want to open the floor, allow you guys to ask some questions. If you missed it, we are going to be sharing the slides. However, a couple people had mentioned that they would like a copy of the data. I guess I should mention what we're even talking about. It's the seller survey that we've been hosting over the last few weeks. We ended up with about 3,600 something participants, which is awesome because I talked to our CEO over at eRank, Anthony Wolf, and asked him how many people do we need realistically to take the survey for it to be statistically significant. He said 1,000. We got 3,600 something. So awesome. That means that we got a very, very good pool of data. Lots of sellers who have been selling for a long time, lots of handmade sellers, lots of sellers who obviously, you guys participate in YouTube communities, which means you're not just people who are, winging it, opening Etsy shops.
It wouldn't let me mute here.
Okay. Winging it, starting random Etsy shops, not doing any research, just basically having opinions on things without even trying to understand them before you form an opinion. You guys are the ones who are like trying to learn, You're not complaining about visibility, but not even knowing what SEO is. You guys are the ones who I think give the very best feedback. So anyway, with that in mind, a couple people asked for a copy of that data. I didn't have time to convert everything over to a PDF. So down below this video, if you expand out the video description, you can actually just grab the Canva template of the exact document that we presented. And we'll be showing that today. And if you want to, if you need it as a PDF, after you get your copy, just go into the template. You'll have a purple button will pop up to create a copy. Create your copy. And then if you want to download it, before you download, in the download settings, you can convert it to a PDF. Would not recommend printing it. It would take so much ink. It is a lot of pages with a lot of color. But you guys can do whatever you want with it. If you want to flip it into like something that you can print out, go right on ahead. My only ask is that if you use it for any like blogs or anything like that,
give us credit.
Yeah, just,
it was a lot of work.
Exactly. Starla and Marc or Handmade Alphas. I'm Handmade Alphas on every social media account, or just say Starla and Marc, and I'm the only one. So, who, because what I would love is to be able to potentially take this to some higher news outlets. I tend to let these videos kind of stew on their own to see if any news picks them up organically, like they did with Keep Etsy Human. I had e-commerce bites reach out to me, organically. So I'm giving it a little bit of time to simmer, and I'm giving you guys time to do what you will with it. And then, within a week, if we don't hear anything, I might start reaching out to some news outlets to see if they're interested in the data for, any specific purposes. I've also got Anthony at eRank going through and using all his smarty algorithms and things to, go through and see if there's anything, he can correlate between the data sets. He is a very different type of thinker than I am. And that's why we work so well together. We actually sat in a meeting for 2 hours yesterday. I was in that meeting.
Yeah, Anthony's a very data-driven person.
So he can take, he was going and doing, he would look at one graph and look at the data. And then he would scroll down and he would look at a different graph. And then he's correlating data between the two graphs that I would never be. So anyway, he's going to take it all and see if there's anything interesting that he can potentially figure out from it. Because if there's anybody who can figure out cool stuff with data, it's him. Plus he has tools that where, you know, he can extract certain pieces of data and not have to do things manually, which is way above my head. So I'm glad that he's willing to look at it. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We will probably allow you guys to just ask some questions. If you want us to pop the data open to give you a refresher, we're more than happy to do that. If you have a reference to a specific question, maybe you go down below, you get the Canva doc and you see a specific question, just let us know what that question is and we'll display it up on screen for everybody. And then we'll answer your question. But for the most part, you know, I did have one person in the Handmade Alpha Facebook community and they said, are you afraid, what was it? Are you afraid that Etsy like won't care? And you know, it's a good question. It wasn't supposed to be like an attack. They were genuinely asking me like, what if Etsy doesn't care that you're doing this? But the thing is, being inactive and complacent under the assumption that Etsy won't care, I would rather take the risk of Etsy not caring rather than sitting by silently and not speaking out for the things that we think are important. Things don't get done by people who are afraid that those at the top won't care. So worst case scenario, they don't care. However, you guys walk away with more information, more knowledge. And then what you choose to do with that is up to you. I think that one of the phrases that I used in the slides was how sellers are feeling overall was cautious optimism. You guys are optimistic about the direction of Etsy because they're making changes. They're putting a lot of handmade into their marketing. Their stockholders are really unhappy that Etsy's been profiting positively, but GMS, that's the money that we as the sellers make, has been going down, which means that Etsy's making lots of money from us.
But we aren't making as much money.
Right. So Etsy's making money, and they're making money because of the sellers and the fees and the things. So, and that's making the shareholders unhappy. So because of that, that will make Etsy a bit antsy and hopefully, you know, start inspiring change. Which, you know, a lot of people participated in our last big movement in 2022. That was our Keep Etsy Human movement. Can you believe it's been like 2 years since we did that? Keep Etsy Human?
Maybe it's due for another one.
Yeah, I'm thinking. And right after we did that, like the week after we started the Keep Etsy Human movement, they put that thing in our Etsy listings reminding sellers that like Etsy's a place for handmade, unique goods, yada yada. You can't resell, dropship. Granted, you know, people still do, but Etsy has eliminated like 2 million sellers over the past few months. And you know, obviously there have been some good honest sellers who have gotten mistaken in there, but I'm gonna assume that a lot of those are people who shouldn't be selling on Etsy. I've been keeping track of a couple different resellers who have sold jewelry, because when Mark was looking for an engagement ring for me 2 years ago, all he could find was dropship stuff. So I started following those sellers, you know, very subtly, you know, just kind of peeking in, because I feel like they're a good reference point for a product that could easily be mistaken as something handmade. And I want to see, like, you know, is Etsy doing their due diligence? Are they cross-referencing these photos with big dropship sites? We confirmed that they were dropship, that it wasn't like a case of, you know, a dropship site stealing a genuine handmade seller's photos. You could buy these particular rings on a ton of different dropship sites. So a couple of them have been shut down, and they had a lot of sales. Like they had like 30,000 plus sales, and star seller badges, which is what really, you know, grinded mine and Mark's gears when we were, you know, doing our own research and keeping an eye on these shops. It's like, how is this so easily flying under the radar when a quick Google reverse image search shows all the places where they're buying these exact rings in bulk wholesale? So, anyway, with that in mind, I think Etsy is moving in a positive direction, but that's where the cautious optimism comes in. It's almost like, you know, we're
You got engaged 2 years ago? No, it's when we did the Keep Etsy Human.
No, you getting our engagement ring.
Oh, yeah. No, I re-upped her engagement ring because the first one she had was like $175. It wasn't worth very much.
Yeah, when we we got engaged when we were 18, and he bought me a $200 ring with a savings bond that he had received for graduation
that I cashed early.
Yeah. We could have a lot more money right now. But that was my cheap little ring that we got at the mall, and it was very, very sweet, but I'm so afraid something's going to happen to it, and someday I would like to give it to my daughter.
So we have a monetary value, one that doesn't mean quite as much.
Right, but it's pretty.
But it's pretty.
It's very pretty.
It's more symbolic.
Yeah, it was for our anniversary.
And we've been married almost 15 years. Our 15 years in October.
Yes. But anyway, yeah. So did we have any questions about
Literally
the data
none.
so far? Okay.
Literally zero.
Well, let's go ahead and
you guys are good to get questions in. We'd prefer to keep them about the data or at least related to it. They don't necessarily have to be, but I would like to keep it about Etsy as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and we can go ahead and pop open our screen share just for the heck of it. And we'll skip over, the why we did the survey and things like that. If you guys want to go through all this, you can either read it in the document or I add additional context in the video that we posted on Tuesday. One thing that I really like, and this actually, a couple POD sellers got super duper mad that I said that because we had so many handmade sellers take the survey, that we felt like we were getting the best of Etsy. A few POD sellers were really upset because I had said something about like handmade sellers are the ones who are really like putting in their blood, sweat, and tears.
100%.
And the argument was that like POD sellers put in just as much work. That's the point of POD.
I disagree with you. First of all, no, I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
Right. Well, that's the point of POD. That's how POD advertises. Trust me, Printify flew me out to Latvia to talk about how easy Printify is. I am a POD seller, and I was a handmade seller for 10 years. And I am telling you, POD, if you're putting a lot of hours in it, it's different than blistering your hands and burning yourself and breaking your back and sawing and hammering.
And that doesn't discredit the fact that some of you, not all of you, some of you sit and draw your designs and you do just as much customer service and you do all this and that and the other. But what you're doing is all of that minus all of the handmade part.
Right.
So a majority of the handmade sellers are doing everything that you're doing, plus one whole additional extra thing, plus stocking inventory of supplies, stocking inventory of the products that are being shipped.
Shipping them.
There's more that goes into it. So 100% absolutely wrong. That doesn't discredit the fact that a lot of POD sellers, especially high volume POD sellers, do put a lot of work into their shops. However, as far as problems that contribute to Etsy on top of like also doing the POD thing, a majority of POD sellers are people that just buy designs and stick them on the platform. POD is just as much of a problem as the drop shipping is. Let's be realistic. The Etsy is absolutely crowded with garbage POD products that have zero effort, zero love, zero creativity. It floods the market just as much as the drop shipping does. So let's not pretend that POD is not also a problem.
Right. And this should make, dedicated POD sellers who are putting a lot of work, it should make you guys mad.
Yes, because it discredits the work that you are putting into your products.
Right. The people who don't care about their shop, who like aren't taking time to learn, who aren't doing any research, who are doing, who aren't even filling out their shop, and they're just putting up as much stuff as possible.
Right. Like it's like us talking about the difference between print on demand and handmade. POD is one step easier than that. We're talking about people that go even one step deeper than that literally do nothing but buy a design, stick it on a shirt, use the pre-designed mock-ups, and then stick them on Etsy. The only thing of actual work they do is any bit of customer support, which they probably use entirely AI to do to begin with.
Right. And
so there's a whole thing.
And POD has a huge place. Like Tina said, I use POD and I'm not, I won't curse this early in the video at these words at all. But the thing is, Tina, she has to use POD. She works within a really small space where she doesn't have room for inventory, and she makes beautiful art that she can print on all different types of products. And even those who do use things like Canva, I use Canva, I collage together usually 50 to 100 teeny tiny assets that I cut apart in different ways. You guys have seen me do it in the past where I've shown you like how many elements go into my products. And even if you don't do that, even if you're just, you know, combining a few elements, but doing it in a way that's different, that is still some effort. But we all have come across those listings where you look at it and you're like, who the heck would buy this? Why does this person even think that this would sell? So anyway, somebody had asked about supplies. The only product on Etsy that you are allowed to like resell that you didn't make are supplies. So you can sell craft supplies like beads, fabrics, you know, essential tools for a craft. If you wanted to start like a shop selling yarn and crochet hooks and things like that, or party supplies. So if you're a party shop and you're selling, you know, birthday banners and paper plates with puppy dogs on them and napkins and, you know, things like that, supplies all encompasses all of that. It's paper and party supplies and craft supplies. What Anthony's gonna try to do is go through, because I do not have a magical tool that would allow me to do this, but Anthony's gonna try. He's going to try to see the percentage of handmade, POD, and digital people who voted for certain things. So like, how satisfied are handmade people with Etsy versus POD people? Because it's in the data set. It's just we personally don't have a way within Google Forms to like segment it that way. But I would be really curious to see, like, I'm assuming that handmade people are probably really dissatisfied. I would love to see how it compares. You know what I mean? I think that it would be really interesting to see who out of these people is the most dissatisfied with certain elements of Etsy. I have a feeling that, you know, certain sellers are going to be more dissatisfied when it comes to the fees. I think handmade people would be dissatisfied with the fees, but I think digital are going to be really dissatisfied with the fees because the margins for digital are already so small because you have to charge so little. So I have a feeling things like fees probably really impact digital as well. Well, same with POD though. Margins for POD aren't always great either. So yeah, again, this is all like really good data that I hope that Anthony can, you know, figure out how to segment and give us a more in-depth report.
I think a lot more stores are going away with the Chinese tariffs. I think it'll be a lot of the junk thoughts. It's still a little too early to tell. I don't know what people's margins are on stuff like that, but when you go and you actually look at websites that they buy this crap from, especially the jewelry sellers that sell necklaces and rings for like $300 that they buy for $7 a piece, the tariffs aren't even gonna they're not gonna budge their margins
when their profit margins are that
right
big.
They're losing a buck out of the $300. I don't think it's gonna affect their margins. However, I do think some of the more expensive stuff might get here's the
junk
thing
jewelry and
here's
stuff.
the thing, at this point we don't even know what the tariffs even look like. That I don't even think the people doing it know what it looks like. They clearly don't know what they're doing. Let's keep the politics out of the chat, but anyone who looks at this and thinks that anybody has any idea what's going on is lying to themselves. I don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And unfortunately, it's kind of just a waiting game. I can't say anything, but hopefully just follow Pam's channel, because she did something really cool today.
Yeah.
And we don't know for sure if it's something that she's going to be able to publish publicly or talk about publicly, but just go make sure that you're subscribed to Pam Duthie's channel and watch out for content related to the tariffs. Hopefully she's able to share some more with us, but she did something super duper cool, and I'll leave it at that.
What is supplies?
I already answered.
You already answered
yeah,
that.
I answered that one.
Mm-hmm.
I sell some POD and some handmade, and POD is definitely easy. That's what POD is for. That's why we have POD.
Let's not move on. We have a lot of questions.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that there were questions about this.
There's quite a few questions.
Oh, okay. Well,
Let's not move on.
we can go back to the main if
That's fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and go back to me.
I think They can pop this open. We'll go back to it.
Here's the thing. I don't want people to misconstrue the fact that I don't hate POD. We don't hate POD.
No,
I think
we
obviously we do the POD, so it doesn't entirely bother us. I think POD has its place. However, it's a system that's abused like everything else, and because it's so heavily abused, it's just as much of a problem as the drop shipping is.
Yeah.
And I knew as soon as Etsy allowed like full-blown POD on the platform, I called it. I knew I knew that it was going to flood the platform and turn it into like an eBay. And that is exactly what happened. And now with AI, it's even worse. We're not getting into the ethical arguments of AI. It's not going anywhere at this point. Cope. Like it's not going anywhere. We have to do what we can. Cope with it. Like complaining about it and getting all beat up on yourself about it. It's not going to change anything. Etsy's not going to change their stance on it.
Yeah.
Zero chance.
But with that in mind, I think it's more about the culture of AI where we all saw it. We saw that big boom in the number of sellers
it's mostly F-boys.
Well, no, it's people who generate all the designs. They generate all their keywords. They generate all their product descriptions. They generate all of their everything they do. They generate everything, and they're able to get shops up, in a day or two. And then they get another shop up and another shop up and another shop up. And then each of those shops has 5,000 listings in it. And it's like, for one, how do they even have the time to keep track of it all? But for two, that is a lot of listings that are suddenly making Etsy way more competitive. Was there a specific question?
Yeah, there's a question about selling on other platforms.
Oh, it's towards the
end.
Yeah. Because we weren't able to take the exact graphs, because remember, it only showed every other. Okay. Oh yeah, it wasn't in a graph, it was in here.
Yeah,
those two.
Laura had said, how much of the sellers who participated also sell on other platforms? Etsy's quite cheap and seller friendly compared to other platforms.
And I agree. And that was one of the things Anthony and I talked about, where people were saying, like, talking about how the fees were way too high and it was like the most unfair thing about Etsy. The fees for Etsy are way less right now than anywhere else. And a couple people said that, Shopify's cheaper for them. I'm setting up a Shopify right now and I'm using a free theme that I'm updating on my own, but my Shopify is still $39.99 a month. That's still quite a bit, That's it.
Okay, so we had this. How many of you are actively looking at selling on other platforms? 62%. 22 already have their own website. 24% of people sell in in-person markets or craft fairs. Shopify, about 19% of people are already using it. Other platforms include eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon Handmade, Go Imagine, and Redbubble. So only about 40%, just under 40% of the sellers that we interviewed are on Etsy alone.
Right. And a majority were really interested in learning about other platforms, which is why I had a bunch of people get super duper mad at me about making the Redbubble video. And I'm like, look, I'm not favoring any platforms. I was being accused of like taking money, like she has to be taking money from Redbubble.
$0 from anyone for this video. This is entirely 100% self-driven. There is zero money being paid to us by anybody. Other than YouTube, obviously.
Right. But it's not just Redbubble. Like now I'm working on Shopify. Like I did Go Imagine for, last year we did all the interviews with John for Go Imagine. Like I'm not, just because I'm talking about something, please know that I don't get paid by anybody other than eRent because I work there. I don't get paid for talking about it or for getting people to sign up for it. It's not like a commission-based thing. I get paid by the hour. I do this because I always want to keep my ears perked for opportunities that I feel might be beneficial to different cases. And if a specific case isn't beneficial to you, if Redbubble, if you think that, it's going to harm your business model, or you think that they're disrespectful to artists because of the margins that they take and yada, yada, that's fine. That is a-okay. I am not 100% on Etsy either. Obviously, I'm an Etsy coach, but I don't like all the decisions that they make.
It's called healthy skepticism.
right. I'm just showing the different alternatives. And now I'm learning Shopify because I see that a lot of people are interested in that. So, you know, I'm always trying to make sure that I'm opening up opportunities, but I just want to make sure that it's known. And I made a post about it a few days ago, and you guys were telling me, don't worry about the haters, but I do. It's not the haters that get to me. It's the people who have been following me for a long time who suddenly just make an assumption that I'm suddenly like changing my opinion or getting paid by someone, you know, and that's why. And you guys know that I could be making so much more money here on YouTube if I did the sponsorships and stuff.
100%.
And I choose not to. I choose not to because I hate watching YouTube videos with, and you know what? Creators deserve to. They absolutely deserve to. They deserve, right? They deserve to make money. But when my whole thing is focusing on data and trying to give you opinions just based on what I think, because that's why you guys are here, I don't want a financial incentive to be the thing that, you know, that causes me to have an opinion. And, you know, I work a lot with Printify. By the way, I'm going to be on their Clicks to Riches this upcoming Thursday. So if you guys want to tune into that. But, you know, they flew me out to Latvia. I flew first class out there. It was wonderful, but they don't pay me. And when I do my product hauls for Printify, you know,
YouTube pays us. Printify doesn't send us, so we pay for all of it.
Well,
out of pocket.
Not only do we pay for it, some of it we're like, this is crap. this don't stop.
We're not shills. I hope people, and obviously people that have been here a long time know that. And a lot of people who haven't been here, we don't shill people for anything.
Right.
I cannot stand people that are like that, from influencers to government to everything. I cannot stand shills. But anyway.
Yeah, just let it be known that nobody's paying me to say anything that I say.
And we disclose always, because guess what? It's in YouTube's terms and conditions. If you're being paid for something, it has to be disclosed somewhere in the video.
Absolutely.
Not in the description, in the video. It can be text on the screen. It can be said out loud, but it has to be disclosed. And a lot of people don't follow that. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ashley had said in the amount of social media influencers that are focused on quick, cheap POD, the example that I always use is, let's say an influencer gets 1 million views on a video that tells everybody to go have 500 listings in a new Etsy shop to make money. Let's assume 1% of those viewers go and they start a shop with 500 listings in it over the next week. That's 10,000 people, 500 listings apiece, or 500 listings apiece. That is an insane amount of listings to be going up on Etsy. Now let's assume that it's not just one influencer, because it's not. Let's assume it's 50 to 100 influencers all getting 1 million views on a video, and they're only getting a 0.1% conversion rate on that concept. And now they're doing it once a month. Now we have tens of millions of garbage listings going up on Etsy every week. Compounds the problem.
And if you guys go on to vidIQ, which is basically, it's eRank, but for YouTube, when I go in there and do research, one of the most searched things on YouTube is drop shipping on Etsy, how to drop ship on Etsy, how to get away with drop shipping on Etsy, how to drop ship on Etsy from this country or that country. And then I also have been getting ads. I've been getting ads on Facebook for companies that will do the, you know, you can set up drop shipping for Etsy. And it's totally, and it's not POD. I know a lot of people, you know,
it's not the same thing.
Right, because, you know, you're designing that product. These are just companies that place an order from one business, and then you get the money, and then the product goes from that business direct to the customer, and you literally had no input on anything. That's drop shipping. Let's see.
How are people able to sell vintage? It's allowed in Etsy. Yeah. It's Etsy's rules. Realistically, they're non sequitur when it comes to us talking about any of this. It's such a small percentage of the Etsy platform.
Unfortunately.
It doesn't hurt anybody. The algorithm doesn't really touch them anyway, because they can't recycle products, because you can't. I mean, a lot of them can. You can get the same product over and over and over again.
It's hard.
They don't.
Quality scores.
You're not competing with vintage. it's an irrelevant category.
Yeah. Not that vintage sellers are irrelevant.
No, it's irrelevant to everyone else. You don't need to over-explain. It's fine.
Right. It's not going to, if you're somebody in a different category, it's not hurting you.
It has absolutely no effect on you whatsoever.
Right. But vintage, it's allowed on Etsy, and it used to be a lot more popular. There are a lot of vintage sellers. We have a lot probably in the chat.
Some of them are really successful too.
Yeah.
Absolutely no problem there.
Because they've built up really great customer and marketplace experience scores, which is your overall sum total of like your good reputation on Etsy, which can help to rank your product higher in search. Now, new vintage sellers, I do worry about now in particular because it takes time to build traction. The way that Etsy awards higher ranking in search is through positive customer interactions and repeat sales of singular listings, which is why having stock, being able to make something more than once is really important. Vintage sellers don't get that as a benefit. So those singular listings are going to struggle to rank in search. Now, the benefit for vintage sellers is that, especially, on platforms like Etsy, usually customers are searching for that very specific thing, and there is no way for a non-vintage product to, utilize the keywords that are helping those vintage sellers get found. So, when it comes to like Google Shopping and things like that, if you're searching for a vintage, 1976 Tupperware with a picture of a duck on it, Etsy might be the only place where that product exists. And if you start your search on Google, that listing might pop up in Google Shopping. Or if the person knows to shop on Etsy, there's probably one or two sellers on Etsy selling that exact product, but they are going to rank in search as long as they're using those keywords. So there are benefits, that vintage sellers have, but again, it's just like selling, I'm assuming, vintage at like a flea market or an antique mall or something like that. You have to find the exact type of customer who is looking for that interesting product to complete a collection that they have, or, complete, a room that they're decorating, an aesthetic that they have. You're typically going to be hitting those customers who know exactly what they're looking for. Because they collect that thing, or they collect something similar to that thing, which is how we do have vintage sellers that are really, really successful.
Nicole said, I just want to jump in and say, when I first started, I honestly didn't know any better. Grabbed a graphic from CF and just slapped it on a shirt. I think it's the new peeps. We can only hope the newbies find that Starla and Marc can pivot like I did. Here's the thing. Business ethics are not an inherent thing. It's not something that you're taught in school. It's not something that you can just piece together. Just like getting into anything new, you don't really know what the ethics of it are.
Right.
Even with like course selling, there's a lot of crappy stuff that and you guys have seen other people who sell courses.
I sold copyright stuff when I first opened my shop when I was 19. I didn't know.
You live and learn, do better. It's people that hear that something is wrong and argue tooth and nail to defend something they know is wrong.
Right.
That's where it starts to get iffy. I just ban people like that because they're not people who are willing to learn.
Yeah, like, oh, well, I'm going to keep selling Disney because Disney already makes enough money. I'm like, you know what, boo, you do you, but
the world is in such an unhappy, awful mental condition because people are unwilling to change their opinions when presented with fact. Right. That applies to everything from the ground level all the way up to the highest job positions in the world. People are unwilling to learn, or they're so stuck up their own butts and greedy that they don't care.
Right.
Narcissism is huge.
You guys should see some of the people who get on my videos about like copyright and trademark infringement, and they just go on and on about all the reasons why they should be allowed to sell what they sell. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, Disney does make a lot of money. However, the laws that protect Disney are the same exact laws that protect small artists.
Here's the thing. At one point in time, Disney was just a dude sitting at his desk with a dream. It doesn't matter. You are no different than, well, maybe you're probably not a Nazi, but you're not a whole lot different than the person that started the company. And here's the thing about Disney. It's not Walt Disney sitting and drawing it. It's small independent artists that Disney hired to make their new art. Doesn't matter what your opinions of it are, someone in that chain is getting hurt, and it doesn't matter what size that they are. It's just like a lot of people talk about, like, oh, these big shops on Etsy should get removed because they make so much money. And it's like, okay, I want to hear you say that same argument if you're the person that gets to that point.
Oh,
It's so unfair that people have these opinions just because someone gets big and popular, that they're less of a human being and deserve less rights now. That doesn't quantify. Let's break that crap down now. I know Etsy's a huge company. They do a lot of garbage. That nothing's gonna change that, but it doesn't change the fact that it started with a dude sitting at a desk, like Tina said, in a garage, drawing art. It still started exactly where you started. It doesn't make it any more fair.
Yeah, I was gonna show you.
Gonna give me a heart attack today.
Oh, did they not post it on Instagram? Maybe they got it taken down.
I think. No, I didn't have any stream stop.
I was hoping that it was taken down.
I think Chinese shops have U.S. warehouses, so it might take months to see any effects. Yeah, but it affects their imports too, though. So it really still
maybe over time.
Yeah, maybe over time. It's hard to tell. What are you doing?
I'm just trying to show you something. Just give me a minute. Okay. I wanted to show an example. Okay. So go ahead and share just for a second. So my friend who owns Floor Cacao's, this comic, this is Hot Topic. Hot Topic stole his artwork. I know that it's, very simple artwork, but this concept belongs to him. And you guys would probably recognize it. This is, one of my longtime friends who has grown in popularity over the years, but now major brands steal his art all the time because they think, oh, look, it's a cute, funny meme that I see everywhere. But he owns it. This is his idea. He just had a book published with his concept. He has merchandise. He has his own merch. You can license with him to do things legally. He makes it easy. But at the same time, big brands like Hot Topic still steal his concept. You can go ahead and... But yeah, it's the same laws that protect the little guys, protect the big guys. And never forget that even if you see something everywhere, it doesn't mean that it wasn't someone else's original art, idea, concept. It just, anyway.
Do POD's base products come from China? I would assume most do. I'm wondering how that hurts POD's small profit margins. Again, some we don't know. It's hard to tell where... Again, the people that are doing the tariffs still don't even know what they want to do with the tariffs. They're just going back and forth, gaming the stock market for the sake of making billionaires more rich. Not arguing about it. That's exactly what's happening. Until we know exactly where those are going to sit, whether or not some legal intervention comes in and makes them stop fixing the stock market, or if they just put plans in place and stick to it and keep things locked in, we don't know. Somebody said that they had received an email from TikTok and they still haven't received an email from Etsy about it. TikTok's a Chinese company and they know that their tariffs probably aren't going anywhere, so they're willing to send information out. Etsy doesn't know what's going on. Etsy's just as confused as the rest of us.
Printify and Printful have already posted about the tariffs, right? Didn't they say that their prices are not going to go up yet? Like they're gonna keep us posted, but as of right now, nothing's going.
It's really complicated because, like you said, some of the stuff probably does come from China. Some of the stuff probably comes from elsewhere. And the problem with that is that they went from like just Chinese tariffs to worldwide tariffs to not having worldwide tariffs to having worldwide tariffs. And now we're back to not having worldwide tariffs for the next 90 days, only China tariffs. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. So anyway, let's continue on. We have lots of questions.
This is everybody asks me like, what should we do? What should we do? And I'm like, right now, don't seek answers that don't exist. It will just melt your brain. Let politics do politics. And when something pops up that we need to know, Etsy will tell us. Mark and I will obviously do a live stream and we'll tell you.
I don't get super hard into the politics, but I'm not unwilling to tell you when something is happening that's blatantly obvious in your face. We have artists that can't have nice things because people abuse AI, dump designs, and upload it in bulk. Those people are not your competition.
That's true. I can identify an AI
Now-
listing very quickly. I think it's more that they are competing in search.
However, people that buy designs off of Creative Fabrica are just as prevalent and just as much of a problem. AI in itself isn't necessarily just the problem, because the people that are utilizing AI are almost strictly POD. It all boils down to POD and drop shipping. They are all equally the problem.
Right, but for like Tina, you know, she's that the question was from Tina, with Tina being someone who puts a lot of time into her art. I'm sure it's really frustrating to look at who's
100%.
ranking in search.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I don't know where we are with AI yet. I can almost guarantee it's not going anywhere.
No.
I don't think it's gonna go anywhere.
Not with Josh Silverman's stance on
I
it.
don't see the thing. He's not pro AI. He's just not anti AI, and that's where the difference is. But again, I don't know if this is one of those things long term that is going to end up being the horse and buggy versus the car situation, or if this is going to be a car versus a car situation where either you're going to have to get on the AI train in order to stay relevant in online marketplaces. And if that's the case, it won't just be Etsy, it'll be everywhere. Or if we're just going to have to be cross competing with AI, I don't know where that is yet, because either way, art is a concept, not an action specifically. And anyone can argue that it is artistic to come up with a prompt, put it into AI, alter it to come out with the design that you want it to be. I don't necessarily agree with that standpoint. However, it's a point. And if most of the world agrees with that point and you don't, you're the outlier and everybody else is going to win. I don't know where that is yet. We're not to that point. I don't think we're going to be to that point for a long time. We haven't really had that problem with AI being the problem yet, like causing an actual catastrophic issue, like destroying the internet, or like, you know, something truly catastrophic, like taking down the power grid because, oops, I took the guardrails off an AI and it took down the power grid. We have to wait until like the first bad thing AI does happens to know where the global scale of AI opinion is. Because for the most part, like, I go to a family gathering and my family, who's anywhere from like 35 to 60, not a one of them knows anything about AI. So it's not as big as people like to make it out to be. I think it's still like a small business and like internet nerd for kids who's under 25 thing.
Right, but I'm still
We'll see where that goes.
But I'm still like following people on Facebook who are sharing fake AI looking Sprite cans saying, "Oh, the new flavor of Sprite." And I'm like, "That's AI." My mom sent me dragon shaped Peeps and I'm like, "Mom, that's AI."
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm seeing, you know, oh, this little boy created this beautiful sculpture in Africa out of trash. Everyone send him a heart and tell him how much you appreciate him. That's AI. Like, I think that for the most part, some people are going to adapt really, really quickly to identify it. And I think that some people are not, because there are levels of experience to the world of the internet that some people just don't have. And we can all think of somebody like that, right? Like a friend or a parent or a grandparent or a friend. It's always a friend of a parent. It's like my mom's friends are the ones where I'm like, oh my God. And I never say anything to them. I just let them post their fake Oreo flavors that don't exist. Like, you know, whatever.
Right. No, I get it.
Like, if they want to go to Target and try to find that fake Oreo flavor for the next 6 weeks and get frustrated, then whatever. You know, it's not my place. But yeah. Anyway, what do we got?
How would digital items be affected if we create clip art or templates for interior design? People already do that, so I don't know how it affects the industry. Kill that, please, and turn it back on.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the specific question is.
And just press it again. You don't have to give it a break. Just off and on.
Okay.
Just pop, pop.
Does it overheat? Is that why it's been doing that?
No, there's a glitch in it that a few earlier models, like what I have had, and it just turns off at certain percentages after a period of time. I've got the fans on.
Oh, okay.
Looking for questions. How have Etsy sales crashed given the economy? The economy just started going into a rough spot, so realistically, it hasn't affected it at all. And we don't really understand. Here, okay. I want to address a little bit. Just a little bit. Not political. Kind of, but not really.
You want me to pull up the sites tool real quick with the comparison?
No, I don't.
No?
That has nothing to do with that.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're someone who is directly investing in the stock market, this crash doesn't affect 99% of you, at least right away. Now, obviously, the cost of goods is going to go up a small portion. It's usually disproportionate in some industries over others. Like in some places, oil prices have gone down. Gas is cheaper here than it has been in a while.
Oh my goodness. I got it.
I just need to turn it down. So it's hard to tell when and where it's going to actually affect things. If you have retirement accounts and stuff, obviously the stock market crashing down, it bothers things, right? It's going to bother some of you who are losing a bunch of money. For the grand scheme of things, just remember that anything that the news is saying is blown 500% out of proportion for the sake of maintaining and gaining viewership. This isn't a rumor. This isn't a myth. We all know
that the news does
that.
that.
Turn on the local news. So, sometimes there's good news on the national news. Turn on your local news, and it is literally everything negative happening in your community and almost nothing positive. They do that in order to maintain viewership. The economy isn't crashing. The stock market is having a rough time because of unpredictability within the tariffs and most likely market manipulation. We can argue on and off all we want. Any news source's job is to make you afraid so you come back for more. Don't let it beat you up. We are in the Etsy slow season. That is not going to change. Ups in the market, downs in the market, they're going to cause products to go up, but paying an extra 50 cents for your bread isn't going to make Etsy sellers stop shopping. Gifts are something that are bought regardless of the economy. It might slow down, but it's not going to crash. Yeah. Now, that's a whole different story. If the stock market crashes, we can talk about that when it gets to it. Without getting political, realistically, it's not going to have that much of an effect on your margins.
Right. It feels really bad. Do you need to fix the light?
Yes, I'm just going to turn it down 30%. I don't know why.
Go back 3 weeks on my channel. We talked about the Etsy sales drop. And in that Friday Bean episode, I show the eRank Sites tool comparing traffic from Etsy, eBay, Amazon, Walmart.com, Target.com, every e-commerce site that anybody could possibly think of. And they all have an identical trend that goes down. And and this is how it's always been. Mm-hmm. Spring and summer for most industries are always slow because people are saving their money. They're spending time outside. Right now, obviously, the economy is part of it. So we have a bit of a double whammy there. But we always see the sales uptick start around August. So this is completely normal. And if you go back on my channel and type in, if you just search Starla Moore Summer or Starla Moore Spring or Starla Moore Stall, STALL, you will find all of the videos since I started my channel 7 years ago going over strategies for slow summer sales because it happens every single year.
And he had said we're very much spiraling into a recession. Possibly. 100%. Here's the thing, and this applies to every single one of you. Vote different. Vote different. If you have a problem with the way that things are running, you have a voice. Get out of your chair, walk down to the voting polls, vote. Change it. That's it. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but if one side absolutely destroys the economy and the other side doesn't, vote for the other side next time. I don't know what to tell you.
I want to move away from politics.
I also want to move away from politics. Here's the thing. We're in a state where everything is politically driven because it has to be.
I know. It makes things hard. I don't want to deal with the comments.
I want to be very clear. We are not Republicans. We are not Democrats. I want to make that very, very clear because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comment section for this.
We've been accused of being both.
We are not either. I want to make that very clear. I think they are both terrible political parties, and I want people to just understand that we are centrist-aligned voters. I'm not going to tell you what party we associate with, but it's neither one of those. Here's the thing. You have a voice. Absolutely nothing, money-wise, makes it any more difficult to grow a crop, create an item, create a piece of bread. It is artificial. It is 100% fake. So when things start to get more expensive because old dudes in Congress and wherever else are arguing about how expensive things should be and who we should charge for what, use your big boy voices, go out, say something. Go to protests, go to your state office, call your congressman, red state, blue state, doesn't matter. Call and complain. If 500,000 people in every state call and complain that they can't afford this, that, and the other, things change. And when they don't change, you start a movement. That's all I want to. I want to be off of this political stuff. I know sometimes you can't avoid it because a lot of this stuff is politically driven. If we end up in a recession, it is a political problem. However, that's an easy fix. When one side causes a recession and isn't doing anything to fix it, you go out and vote for the other side and hope that they fix it. That's it. I don't advocate for either party. I think they both have their problems. Anyway, we're going to try to move away from the political stuff because it drives me nuts continuously talking about it.
Yeah, because Starla's going to have to deal with all the replay comments. And let me tell you,
y'all get angry.
I had the worst. You know how in our mental health stream a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? I can't remember. I think it was last week. I talked about how sometimes I have bad brain days, but I show up here anyway. Today I woke up and it's been a real bad brain day.
Yep.
And like I'm on medication for bad brain days, but sometimes the medication doesn't work when the bad brain day is real bad.
Good point. I remember how things were around Y2K when people thought cars, computers, and everything else would fall, which was around the exact same time frame, around 1994, 1995. I forget who it was. It was somebody super famous, said that the internet would absolutely never be a mainstream thing.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people said that.
Now it runs the entire planet.
Yeah.
Anyway. And how do sales for them compare between platforms? We didn't ask that question, unfortunately. Etsy, for most people, is going to bring in the most sales. Here's the thing, because I see a lot of people talking about how they don't want to, they want platforms that bring traffic for them, which is a common sentiment. When it comes to selling on Etsy, Etsy brings you a lot of traffic, but you're going to be more successful when you do market offsite as well. Whereas selling on places like your own website, especially, are going to require you to 100% bring in your own traffic. Unless you're selling something that is a trendy product and you're good at website SEO to get yourself to the top of Google search pages and have like chat, because a lot of people use ChatGPT instead of Google now. If you're that kind of person, you're optimizing your website for that kind of stuff is going to be the best way to go. It's hard to tell, but for 99% of people, I'd say Etsy is probably going to bring you in the most sales.
Oh, I appreciate you guys.
We love you guys. I hate that everything has to be this political, and I crave for a time when things don't have to only be centered around politics 24/7.
Right, especially when our audience is like, how many of you are watching right now and you're not in the US and you're still stressed about our politics? Like
it shouldn't be like
right,
that.
it shouldn't be like that. Like, I don't know.
However, I do want to say there was a post that was shared on Facebook the other day that was newspaper article clippings from time periods throughout time, like throughout
stressful ones,
like throughout the United States. This is not a unique time period. It's not different than a lot of other time periods. Maybe the people are a little bit different, but they're just because they're driven by what they're driven by now instead of what we were driven by then. Realistically, things aren't as bad. Remember, life isn't that bad. Things are a little more expensive, but you're alive. You have a 1 in so many trillion chance to have even existed. Go outside, take your shoes off, walk around in the grass. If you live somewhere with grass, if you don't, maybe put some shoes on. And I hate to be that touch grass guy, but really, go outside, late in the afternoon after all the cars have stopped driving around from work, take a deep breath and just listen to the birds, listen to the trees rustle. Life's okay.
Yeah, and
Life is a lot better than what everything tries to tell you that it is.
right. Think about I mean, as much as nobody likes thinking about like countries that are significantly less privileged than we are, take a moment to think about, you know, areas of the world that don't have access to clean water or food or medicine. You know, it's we live in a wonderful world, and every time period has had bad things and bad people.
Always, forever, for the entirety of human history.
Exactly. And, you know, that does not mean that we as a people are worse off.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
this thing has been scientifically designed to provide you with an addiction that provides you with information that has been scientifically designed to make you addicted to it in order to keep your engagement up on the platform, on the device, and on the issues. Take this thing, put it under your pillow in your bedroom, leave it there.
Yeah.
If you don't have work that needs done on this thing, leave it in a different room. Make it difficult and inaccessible. I promise your serotonin will recover quite a bit, and a lot of your addictive tendencies will slowly start to disappear over time. It doesn't have to be all day. There's also apps that'll lock your phone that make you do push-ups or whatever just to get your phone to unlock. There's a lot of ways. This thing is ruining your mental health. Your computer is ruining your mental health. Life isn't that bad. But anyway, back on topic. This is data driven. We want our data driven stream here. We've already talked about the tariffs numerous times, so if you have any more questions about those, go back in the beginning of them. As of right now, I don't think they're affecting people that much.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Eventually, probably, but not yet.
We'll talk about it as soon as it's more relevant.
Thank you to the person who donated $20. By the way, if you're new here, we have a charity attached to every stream. Right now, our charity is for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That money goes directly to them. Please consider donating. It's right under the chat feature. Even if you're watching the replay, it is still there. We will be running this charity until June, and then we will be making a shift to a different charity. But that's one of the reasons why we do this every single week. We use this as an opportunity to do good. You know, it's not just about us sitting and, you know, gabbing for an hour and a half. It's a way for us to help raise money for things that are important to us. I think, what are we up to for our charity?
It's like 800 something.
Cool. Yeah. So I would love to see that charity hit maybe 1,500 by the time we close it out for the season in June and switch to our Trevor Project charity. So yeah.
It's talking about AI in Call of Duty. I completely quit playing Call of Duty because of it. I'll never buy another one.
Hey, Blue Bell said, is it okay to use words like Procreate, Notion, etc. when selling digital products?
I don't know about those specific ones.
You've got to message the companies or check their individual copyright policies. Some platforms don't mind, some do. Some have specific ways that they want you to position your marketing. Some of them don't want you to use like their logos or anything in your thumbnails, for example. But you'll never know until you check to see if, first of all, they have a page dedicated to that in their legal section. But if you're not sure, go to their website, go down to their contact page and send them an email, because usually they have protocol for that, but it's going to differ depending on the company. Same with if you're selling Canva templates, or if you're selling, I know people sell Trello templates now too, different Trello organizational templates. Thank you again to the other person who donated. I appreciate you.
Let's go ahead and back off the AI arguments in the chat. Y'all are not going to agree. And it's an ethical debate. Your ethics are different than others. It doesn't necessarily mean that their opinions are wrong or that your opinions are right. You have different opinions than other people. Some people don't agree. And sometimes your opinion doesn't matter when more people agree with one side than the other. The side that agrees the most is going to be the one that wins. So let's just stop arguing about AI.
Right. There's no point. You guys,
Yeah, arguing here doesn't do anything. If it makes you that mad, email your congressman.
right. All that's going to happen is the headbutting and the chat getting filled with more comments.
Yep.
And you guys know that
Then
you're not
start losing questions.
right. You guys know that you're not going to convince each other. So
What did you think of Canva Create?
I didn't get to watch it because I was in meetings all day with Anthony, but I did go in and claim my pro, whatever, you click on the envelopes. So I am going to play with them this weekend. I'm super bummed that I missed it. I heard that there was a really cringy song and dance again, which they always do, but I think that it's really cool how much time and money Canva puts into their events. I think that they, in terms of their marketing and everything that they do, it is amazing every single year. So I'm going to catch the replay over the weekend though.
And the last comment on this AI that I'm going to address, she said, defending art theft will never be justified. You can either understand that or not. Here's the thing. Some people make a living taking digital recreated photographs with DSLR cameras of buildings that somebody else designed and built. There is an argument for AI. We don't know where it's going to lead yet. Your opinion doesn't necessarily represent fact because it hasn't necessarily been argued to its fullest degree. Some people literally make a living taking pictures of things that somebody else designed and built, or just taking pictures of human beings. That argument isn't valid yet. Let people decide as a whole what that's going to look like.
Right. Anyway. And you already know where we stand on it.
Yes, I don't agree with AI as an artistic tool. I think it's okay for helping, but I don't think it should be a sole art tool. Anyway, enough of freaking AI.
Yeah.
So sick of hearing about it. It's not going anywhere for right now. Again, email your congressman.
AI and politics are the things that drain my brain health away. The arguments related to them, just
because it's just cyclical. It's like watching people argue about religion, man. It just goes in a circle constantly. But what about this? But what about this? Y'all are never going to agree. Just again, email your congressman. If you hate AI, email the people that are doing it.
we try to stay chill with most things and unbiased. But again, you guys know, for the most part, I think you guys know where we fall on big things. But I feel like our job here isn't to convert people to a specific way of thinking.
It's to help you critical think, because that is not an inherent human trait. Human beings do not think critically until they are taught to think critically, which is why babies will eat poop until you teach them to stop eating poop.
Well, yeah, critical thinking. That's why there's classes about critical thinking. It's not being able to think deeply. That's
no, that's different. It's being able to correlate.
Right. Critical thinking is something that I had to learn how to do in my 20s. And we're not saying that you're not critical thinkers.
No, a lot of you probably are, but a lot of you probably aren't, just because that's how the human brain is.
Right. Critical thinking is something that we encourage everyone to do, through the ways that we teach. And part of critical thinking is making sure that you understand an argument from both angles. That way, if you feel strongly about one way, you know the best way to combat the other side or reason with the individuals on the other side so that you can communicate more effectively. Just like, I highly recommend everybody read How to Win Friends and Influence People. The influence people is the big part of that. If you're wanting to make sure that you're, helping to get positive messages across, that book is a great way to do it, because it helps you to understand how certain arguments are received by another party so that you can craft more convincing, persuasive arguments that aren't perceived as attacks. Because if someone feels, when you're in an argument, if someone just feels attacked, what does an animal do when it's being attacked? It starts biting back. And then you end up biting, and nobody accomplishes anything. Whereas when, you know, you actually approach someone and say, like, look, I understand your point of view. I don't agree with it, but I understand this, and I understand your argument, and I understand why you might feel that way. Here's how I feel. If they're still biting, then you just know, okay, this person's just irrational and I don't need to spend any more time because they don't want to be convinced. But sometimes you end up communicating with another person who has the same goals as you, where you guys just want to either come to an agreement or peacefully agree to disagree, and you're able to at least get on level ground and have a civil discussion. And that's, you know, that works for everything. But yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People it was written in the 30s, and we didn't even have the brain science that we have today. But when you compare it to modern, like neuroscience books, the things that we know about the human brain match up perfectly to concepts that we didn't even have the science to support yet. Which is why I love the book so much, because now
we have the founding hypothesis that the data now supports.
Exactly. Now we have the science to prove the things that Carnegie was saying.
And the why.
I got a quote on Finch this morning. My quote of the day was from Dale Carnegie.
Cool.
So,
have we checked in on how TikTok Shop is doing pre-ban versus post-ban?
Not in terms of sales, because there isn't a universal URL to check. You know what I mean? Like there's no URL for it. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the data for that to compare within like the sites tool. And that only shows you global ranking. It doesn't show you spending. So, I mean, if anybody has that data or knows where I could find it, I would love to look at it. A lot of people were really curious about it though in our survey. It was one of the when we asked people like, which marketplace are you most curious about? A lot of people were curious about TikTok Shop.
I just don't want to pay a fee to start. Kind of annoys me that Etsy charges to make an account, but I love the fact that it stops people from making a bunch of shops. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, and I understand why they did it. I think, you know what? Do I like it? No. Do I think it's absolutely necessary? And am I happy that they did it? Yes. Like, I don't like it because I understand it's very inconveniencing to somebody who's brand new, but you got to spend a little money to make money.
You already answered that. What's the most inspiring or surprising thing that you learned from the survey? Okay, so actually for me, you okay?
Yeah.
Anxiety still getting you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done everything that I can. I took my meds, I took CBD, I did all the things, and I did breathing exercises. I think that it's just one of them days. What I need is a good lunch, I think. I need a good lunch. I'm not hungry at
all. You're crazy.
I think I need a good lunch. It's more that I need to get out and feel the air and spend some time with you away from work. I worked a lot this week. Which one are...
I'm looking for the income.
Oh, it's that one. Yeah.
Okay. So for me, where's lamb? Somebody will get it. For me, it was this one, especially considering this. We did the slides like backwards. When we look at how long people have been selling on Etsy, and I know we talked about this kind of early in the video, this is all less than 2 years. And the amount of people that are doing more than just hobby or spending more, which is this smaller portion here, all of these people are in the green here.
Making a significant amount of money.
Or just enough that it's not just a hobby.
Right.
And if you want to take it above the side income, part-time, full-time, sole source, this is actually pretty inspiring. I think when you throw this whole, I think these 3 people here can kind of be bundled in, but we're talking more than half are doing this for more than a hobby. I think this is the most inspiring thing. And I think it kind of shows, again, some validation to the whole, the angriest people are the loudest people. Because when you look at how long people have been selling on Etsy, less than 2 years here, and look at this, I'm going to go off and say that a large portion of the people who are selling on Etsy, it's obviously not going to be everybody, less than 2 years.
Who are spending more than they're making, haven't
right,
been around very long.
Obviously. And assuming, considering how many people were handmade versus POD, the overwhelming majority were handmade. This shows me that a large portion are probably in here, which means that people aren't doing as bad. And taking 2+ years to build your business to a point where it's actually making good money makes a lot of sense. And it shows me that Etsy as a platform is doing okay.
Yeah.
Because you also have to consider things like the demand for your product. How many people are actually looking for your unique handmade product? And if you're not selling a unique handmade product, why are you expecting to make a full lifetime amount of money on that? Because you're competing with everybody else who's making the same product. I think this shows that Etsy is still a valid platform to sell on in 2025. And not only is it a valid platform to sell on, it's a good place to sell on, because within roughly 2 years, you can be making at least enough income to, like I said in the video, you can buy yourself a family dinner once a month, or you can spend an extra day on vacation, or maybe you can get that next tier up of rental car when you go on vacation, or you can afford that extra Christmas present, or that new Nintendo console that's way more expensive than it should be.
The business tool that will help you to make your products a little bit faster so that you start earning more money.
Right. You can start compiling more and more things. You can expand, you can grow, you can maybe hire yourself a virtual assistant once you get to that sole source of income level. There's so many tiers of expansion, and this shows me that obviously there are outliers. I'm sure there are some of you that have been on Etsy for 5+ years who aren't making sales, and that sucks. However, this shows me that more than likely most people who are on there at the 3-year or more mark are doing better than 0. And that's what we're hoping for.
I think the thing that surprised me the most, it was again, being pleasantly surprised, was that most of the people who took the survey were handmade. I wasn't expecting that. I really truly thought that it was going to be close between handmade and POD. But it ended up not even being close. It was mostly handmade. So I was very shocked by that. And again, that tells me that it's a lot of people who, not that POD people can't and don't put time into their products, but like we talked about at the beginning, handmade people, like, they're busting some major butt. Like, handmade is a lot of steps, and it gets more and more and more complicated, depending on what it is that you make.
Said some are stuck in an information silo, but you're privileged if you have time to doom scroll. Some people are fighting to feed their family. Do you not also have to dodge all of the college kids who are doom scrolling while they're driving? Because I have to every time I leave my house.
We live by a college.
And a military base. They're just as bad. I'm a veteran, by the way, so I get to talk crap about veterans. Get off your phones before I call your commander. It gets on my nerves.
Because we are right beside a huge college
and the only mall in the area and the biggest second military base in the country.
It is insane how many times we almost die every time we leave our house.
And that's absolutely not true, because I know most people who are working the minimum wage jobs are also on their phones, because my order is literally never correct. And I know it's because you're like, I'm making my burger. Yeah, shut up. Shut up. Everybody's on their phones.
I don't know. I've never seen
people on walks on hiking trails. Just everybody's on their phones.
I don't see people working on their phones, but I do see the only ones that I see on their phones are the ones outside, the ones that have the sign shakers, because we were
chewing bubble gum, just slipping their signs.
You know,
or heck, the ones up at the furniture stores, they don't even flip their signs. They just lean on them while they're on their phones. Like they're just not doing anything.
you know what? I don't care.
I
If
don't
they're
care.
they're out there in the
Dude, it's
cold.
got to be boring. I don't
Right.
judge.
If they're out there for hours on the cold and no one told them that they couldn't, then let them look at their phones. Hopefully they're getting some entertainment.
Are they all Dodge Chargers and Mustangs too? No, we live near a military base, so it's all BMWs and Volkswagens.
We drive a Challenger.
Thanks.
So
What are your guys' thoughts on artisans cooperatives?
it's another handmade marketplace. I did a little research into them. They don't, when I compare them in our sites tool to some of the other handmade marketplaces, they don't have as much traction as like Go Imagine, for example. But again, it's another handmade marketplace to look into, you know. Diversify if you can, if you're able to spread yourself and, you know, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. I think that that's one of the main things that we learned from this survey.
Any tips on revamping a shop that has been on life support since 2012? Start from the bottom up.
Yeah, just thankfully you've got a lot of positive history on Etsy, you know, having a shop open that long. I don't recommend, you know, starting a new shop. Just, you know, give your current shop a facelift, and go through the exact steps as if you were starting a new business. You know, you need to spice up your branding, make sure you're following new best practices for SEO. If you took your product photos in 2012, you need to revamp those because they're probably looking bad compared to how, you know, cameras are today. It's really about going through the steps, you know, that you would use to start any business, whether you're selling something different or what you sold previously. And making sure that you're building something that you can be proud of in the vision of what you want it to be today. But it starts with creating a vision, identifying your ideal target customers. Aren't you in Handmade Alpha Academy? Maybe go through HAA. But yeah.
That's not it. I think we'll all ultimately divide into cyborgs versus feral free folk. I'm gonna go feral. I'm going cyborg 100%. They actually just finished, stupid fact that doesn't matter. They just had the first machine heart successful. I think it was for 60 days while he was waiting on a transplant, and the heart worked completely fine, but he had no pulse because it was just a constant pump.
A hum. I don't know. I think I want to go feral. I'm going to be one of them scary forest folk that have like an animal skull mask over my face. I'm going to go forage for berries and cover myself in mud and hide in the bushes. That's going to be me.
What about Jeeps? Man, not today.
Why did this turn into a car discussion?
I don't know. I feel like the good Jeep owners are getting screwed. Anyway,
no more
politics. This ended up being 30 minutes of straight politics and a stream about data. However, it was impossible to avoid. I know we had to talk about the tariffs. It's the hot topic.
Isn't it just like $15? The Etsy seller fee, it was $15.
That's the minimum. That's the minimum. Somebody had just said they got charged $29. I've seen higher than $50. I don't know what they're using to correlate how expensive it needs to be from one person to another. I have no idea how they're quantifying how much they're charging people, because some people say 15, some people say like 24, 29, 35, 45. I've seen so many different numbers.
Could it be areas of the world where scammers are more prevalent?
I think so. I have absolutely no data to quantify that, but I would go off assuming that it's either like some kind of tax they're paying to the state to allow to sell, or more scammers in an area, or I don't know. More competition in an area. Maybe there's a butt ton of sellers there. I don't know. I don't know why some people get charged more than others.
Pam says some of my listing photos were taken in 2010. Don't tell Starla. The thing is, though, Pam, you create something unique and your photos aren't bad. Like you don't have bad photos, and you know what works for your shop. I would never know that some of your photos are that old, but obviously you've been selling since 2010 and certain photos are working for you, so I wouldn't change them regardless.
I use Etsy postage to print labels and postage, and found out that Etsy Pitney Bowes labels. I think your text got messed up there. Not match new postal regulations. I don't know what specifically you're asking.
Not sure there, Deb.
Your text got a little kerfuggled there.
Yeah, it looks like some autocorrect was going in.
Stop.
Let's see.
What other platforms do you recommend? Well, I mean, for most people, they had said Shopify.
Go Imagine.
Go Imagine. Go Imagine was one of the smaller ones.
Go Imagine is US only. Folksy for UK. Artisans Co-op is one that they didn't mention, but it is a handmade one. You know what? I forgot to tell you.
Own website, in-person marketplace. These are in order of most popular to least. Shopify, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon Handmade, Go Imagine, Redbubble.
One of the number one questions that I was seeing in vidIQ, which is like the E-rank for keywords for YouTube tags and titles, it was where to buy handmade products to sell on Etsy.
That's the big yuck.
So buying a bunch of things that are handmade to sell on Etsy. And I'm just like,
that's drop shit. What are your zodiac signs? I have no idea.
I'm a Pisces and you're a Taurus.
I don't believe in that stuff.
I like the aesthetic though.
Yeah, sure.
I like the aesthetic. They fit us. They do fit us.
When you do a new product drop on Etsy, what's the best way to boost that visibility? A sale and a banner update?
You could. I wouldn't put a brand new product on sale. If you've got social media, I would make sure that you're promoting it all over the place. See, there's a lot of different steps that can like help, but they all take a little bit of time. If you're brand new, you're probably not going to get a lot of traction from your very first collection update. But making sure that you're building that traction overall, and you said this may be covered in HAA, it definitely is. The modules that we have, talking about collection launches, that's one piece of the puzzle. And your first launches aren't going to perform great because you haven't built up a lot of traction. But over time, as you build your social media following, as Etsy's algorithm starts learning more about you and identifying, what you want to be known for, and you launch new products and they start, better identifying who those products should be seen by. Building your email list, for example. These are all things that over time make launches of new products more and more successful. It's just when you first start out, and that's why I teach in HAA that, your first few product launches, when you start doing structured launches, that treat them almost like test launches. And a couple of people are like, well, if it's just a test launch, like, why should I even put all the time into marketing it? You can't get better at marketing until you experience marketing. And it's better to market badly, because we all start by marketing badly. Our marketing will not be great when we first start marketing. If you guys saw my very first bits of marketing, you would cringe. It's so awful. We gotta figure out our flow before we have a big audience. And it would really suck if you never marketed and then you ended up with an audience and then you put all your crappy, first time marketing out to that audience. You know what I mean? It's better because it's all part of the process. You got to put out the crappy marketing, figure out what works, what gets you a little bit of followers, then you repeat what's working, and then you get some more followers, and then you start getting more engagement, and then you start refining that process, and that helps you to build your social following even more. And then because of that, you start making more sales on Etsy, and it's that whole climbing the mountain thing that we talk about in HAA. It spitballs and grows over time.
Okay, David Reed had fixed her question. Post office said Etsy and eBay prices are wrong.
Okay.
So a $3 sticker now costs $4.40 to ship. I did free shipping. Now I'm not sure what to do.
Absorb into your product cost.
Yes, absorb it into your product cost. But if you've already printed a label and they're telling you that it's not right because it's more expensive, I don't think they can do that. You've already got the label. So You just absorb increased pricing costs into the cost of your products. Any update on Etsy's stance shipping to Europe? I thought they were going to get us help with representative for sellers, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, they did publish an article earlier. I think they published it. Pam, are you still here? When did they publish that article? I would recommend following Pam. She's keeping up with that stuff way more than I am right now, because I don't feel like there have been no significant updates on Etsy's end yet. I'm kind of getting sick of just following it. I'm just waiting for something significant to happen, which is why I haven't talked about it a whole lot, but Pam has been covering it. Pam Duthie, if you want to follow her channel. But they did post an article a couple weeks ago, but I don't think that they said that they were creating like a tool or something to help us, and they haven't done that yet. So
I'm going to go down to probably Cryptid Moon's question there, because we didn't answer. We had a lot of dialogue in the middle without answering questions. I heard author Donald Miller's books, Marketing Made Simple and Building a Story Brand. Have you read either?
No, I haven't read either of those. I've never even heard of those. They sound fine though. Y'all see the new sleep token drops?
I'm gonna be 100% honest. As someone who considers themselves a huge sleep token fan, I'm gonna wait I heard Emergence. I'm gonna wait to pass judgment until I hear the rest of the album in context. I did not like Emergence. It was horribly mixed. It was a lot of noise and no breaks in between, and was not very musical. And that's disappointing coming from an artist that is one of the most musically minded people I've ever heard in the metal genre. I'm not going to listen to Caramel yet. I'm going to assume that those were betas and that they're not final mixes, because I could mix it better than that down here. It was bad. Now,
granted, they are performing so well on the charts. So that is a fringe opinion from somebody who understands.
I'm a producer,
right?
Engineer, and musician. So mine is coming from as a musician.
The timing on Emergence for me was very chaotic. There was something really weird with the timing of the snare that it's
a fanboy band. That's what it is. It's popular because they have I'm not going to say fanboys. Let's be real. Fangirls.
A lot of girls. Yeah.
And it's big, and we got a lot of readers, and there's a lot of fantasy behind it, and there's a lot of stuff like that.
No, and
I wasn't a huge fan.
But I don't like all of their other songs on their other albums either. So, just because we didn't like that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird songs on other albums too.
And I have a feeling that Caramel's probably better.
They said that too. I'm going to wait till I hear the album in context, because Sleep Token is a story, and it's like they've provided me a page in the middle of a battle in the middle of a book. Like, yeah. I don't know where it fits in context. Maybe I'll like it after the song that it comes after. Anyway,
I read the lyrics for Caramel though.
When do you see the store fee? When you open it.
Right when you open it. So if you didn't get it, then
you won't have it.
Did you not get a store fee? That's odd. Because that's been over like a year now. But if you already started, you're good.
I have a UK-based account. I'm traveling around Europe. Is there any way I can make and sell on the road? I know a VPN is out of the question. I mean, I would contact Etsy and let them know that that's going to happen. Yeah. I think, and this is blanket advice here, don't take this with a grain of salt. If you're someone who doesn't have a shop, and this is something that's going to be, I know a lot of people in the UK they go everywhere. They do whatever they want, because driving to Florida from here is like driving from one side of Europe to the full other side.
Right.
I know a lot of you guys in Europe just kind of travel constantly because everything is so close. Starting out your shop using a VPN with a dedicated IP address that has never been associated with somebody else, and then only ever using a device with that VPN would probably be your own, because Etsy doesn't like VPNs. I'm not telling you to use a VPN. I don't even know if this would work. I don't know if they can detect VPNs regardless, but having a dedicated IP address on something like Nord, where your IP doesn't change regardless of where you are, might be the only safe thing to do. But Etsy says you can't use a VPN. So
they don't even say you can't use a VPN. They don't say that.
But they outright ban people. The problem with VPNs is you share IP addresses with people who have had it in the past, and your chance of getting an IP address from someone who has been banned before is pretty high. And when they see you come across with that IP address, it's just a like, oh, they're back. And then they just ban you.
Well, not to mention it, your IP is like first you're over here and then you're over here and then you're in this country and that country and this country and that country. And it's like you're moving all around the map.
Having a VPN with a dedicated IP from the start would probably be the way to go. But websites can detect VPNs even when they are not being used. If the program is open, there are numerous websites that I use that will not even load a single page until I fully quit out of the application and restart my computer.
Yeah.
Like they just know that the VPN is open. So
maybe get a hold of Etsy support and let them know and ask them what that way you have receipts, you know, and then save that chat, because your chat histories stick to your account on the support side.
What other platforms do people sell stickers?
To sell stickers?
I mean, you can sell them pretty much anywhere, right? Redbubble's an easy one because they pre-print them for you.
Redbubble, I mean, we did a Friday Bean on that. I mean, any platform. You could technically do Amazon. I'm sure if you're making them by hand, Go Imagine would be an option. Most of the handmade platforms are an option. If you're doing POD, you could try Amazon. I think that you can integrate with, all the POD platforms show all the different websites that you can sell on. You can integrate with any of those websites. But you can sell stickers anywhere. Stickers, and if they're handmade stickers, you could definitely sell them on all platforms.
Hogwarts houses?
Do you have he's so proud of his Slytherin
Knowledge
thing.
is power.
He's so happy with his little Slytherin. He got that from Bradford Exchange, which is where my mom used to buy creepy dolls, and now they sell like a bunch of Harry Potter
Knowledge
stuff.
is power. Slytherin, 100%.
Well, the website, the thing that like gives you your Hogwarts house based on like the stuff you fill out says I'm a Ravenclaw. So
Almost there.
Well,
Can you build an email list from Etsy? You cannot take customers' emails from Etsy, put them into an email list, and send them emails. You can, however, list your email list link for sign up within like the drop down and below the fold, like just above. What is it?
Shop announcement.
Shop announcement.
Mm-hmm. But there's nothing within Etsy that will allow you to build an email list. You have to use an external service. I don't teach that here on YouTube because there's a lot of legalities. So I keep that within the Handmade Alpha Academy so my students can actually email me and get help. That way, you know, there's like more guardrails. But I would recommend using MailChimp because they put a lot of the security and data protection things in place for you. Just write down GDPR. You need to research that so you can keep people in the EU safe. That's the General Data Protection Regulation. And the CAN Spam Act, CAN Spam Act, the CAN Spam Act. Make sure that you read about that before you even start your email list. That way and
there are so many more than that, but if you comply with those two, you're generally safe across the board because California has one. There's a bunch of like Western US states that have one. There's some Midwestern states that have them now. They're all starting to build their own. We need to just build a federal data protection.
Yeah, GDPR covers most of it though.
Okay. I think that's a good stopping point. She's still got to record a video and needs to maintain some semblance of her voice.
And my sanity. Guys, thank you for hanging out. We appreciate you.
Excuse me. Sorry everything had to get so political. Unfortunately, when it comes to touching the tariffs, there's nothing we can do about that. It's a political problem. It's going to stay a political problem, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. Just know that like a few people had said for 99% of you, it's not going to affect you other than a couple extra bucks when you're shopping on your groceries. And showing historical data, even including around other times of craziness, Etsy's a gifting platform, and that's Etsy's data. Etsy is a gifting platform. People still buy gifts regardless of any economic climate. They might spend less money on extravagant, expensive things, but most of you don't sell things that are $400 or $500. Most of you are sellers that sell things from like $15 to less than $100. Those are the items that typically stay safe during economic strife, regardless of how bad. Now, obviously, if we go into a full-blown depression, economic collapse, regardless, everybody's playing at the same playing field. So everyone's going to struggle just as much. Doesn't mean your shop's going to die, but it might mean things get a little slower. As of right now, it shouldn't affect you at all, or at least not much.
Someone had said, let's see, Deb, I'll need to get on the Handmade Alpha Academy. That will be opening on June 14th. There is a link down below where you'll get an email notification right when doors open. Plus, we'll talk about it here. We'll have Critique Week starting on June, let's see, April, May, June. Critique Week will be starting on June 16th. We will do critiques for 1 hour every day that week, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, in order to promote HAA, but everybody's willing to participate and submit their shop for a potential critique. This will likely be the last time that we are offering Handmade Alpha Academy at its current price, because I am building a complete neuromarketing program that is going to be an extension of the Handmade Alpha Academy. Everybody who enrolls in HAA this June gets the original, the normal price, all the benefits. And when this new neuromarketing program opens up, you guys are going to get that with Handmade Alpha Academy. And from then on, those programs will be bundled. When we open Handmade Alpha Academy in December, the price will likely be going up because you are getting 2 courses at that point from then on. And Mark and I have to both maintain these 2 courses and do support for both programs. And I'm hoping to hire another staff member to help with that.
Yes, they are self-included, and any of you who already have HAA, including those of you who buy June, will get all future updates for free. It's how it's always been.
Exactly. This program, originally it was going to be an update to Handmade Alpha Academy, but the more that I build it, the more that I realize that it is a different program. It is universally applicable though. So even if you don't sell on Etsy or you plan to sell somewhere else, this program is going to be focusing more on the psychology of selling. It is going to go into more advanced consumer sciences, but as always, it's going to be built in a really fun format. There's going to be 2 paths for that program: a speed run for those who don't really care as much about learning about the psychology and the brain science. They just want to blast through the whole thing.
Yep.
And then a second path that you can take that goes a little bit more in depth. You can take either path as many times as you want. You can start with one and then go through it again and take the other path. You get access to both. And as always, you guys get lifetime access to that program. You get lifetime access to my email, so you can message me if you have any questions along the way. You have 12 months of eRank Pro that you get included with those memberships. And you get access to Christina Nicole's Product Photography Essentials Workshop, which is normally $300 on its own, and you get that for free. And you get annual access to our Alpha Holiday Boot Camps, which kind of help you to game up your marketing for the upcoming holiday season.
Yep.
Those take place every fall. You also get all the replays of all the past year boot camps, and those are normally between $60 to $120, just depending on where in the marketing cycle you join the boot camp. You get those annually for free forever, for as long as we do Alpha Holiday boot camps. So anyway, guys,
we love you. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for putting up with the stressy talks there.
We appreciate you guys.
Hopefully that'll all shut up soon and we won't have to address it anymore. And everybody can be happier. I like a not stressful world. I'm going to go out. I mean, I would go outside and touch grass today, but it's 33 degrees in the middle of April.
I know. I want the warmth. I'm ready for warm. But guys, we appreciate you so much. This upcoming Tuesday's video is going to be a reboot of a video that I've done in the past, but I'm adding to it because I think that right now is a really relevant time to talk about it. It is reasons why Etsy shops fail. Because obviously most new Etsy shops end up, the person either gives up or walks away or just, decides it's too hard or yada, yada. So I'm going to be going over all the reasons why I feel that Etsy shops fail so that you can avoid them and things that you can do in order to kind of help. But everything good?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. We appreciate you very, very much. And we'll see you on Friday. Bye, guys.